Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with another Dawnbringer Crusade painting tutorial. So as you see, I have been going through the sets as they have been coming out, painting up the awesome new character that comes with each box set. I'm a little bit behind on some of them though. Flesh Eater Court, still not painted. Wood Elf character, or Sylvanette character, apologies, not even built yet. But today's video, I tackled Thrug. A lot of people online have been looking for tutorials of Thrug, and there isn't actually a lot out there. I don't know what the other creators have been doing, but like myself, maybe they got distracted. This guy came out the same day as all the new Ironjawz kits, so I focused on that big pig character from that set when that came out. So obviously this guy fell a little bit by the wayside. So I have circled back around now to try and tackle him. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this is one of those weird models where I had decision paralysis for like every color. I was really struggling on different parts of him. It was nothing to do with the fall comings of the model at all. It's an absolutely stunning model. I love Gloomspite Gits, I love Destruction, I love Trolls, so the model itself is fantastic. But basically through this tutorial I'm going to talk through some of my decisions. Some of them may not make a lot of sense. I may go back over some of them, and I'm going to talk through that process of basically trying to correct myself. And basically the idea of it is me fighting through that ugly stage of the model for a little bit longer than I normally would have, and then seeing if I can get a nice result at the end of that. So that's what today's video is going to be about. Before I get into it, big thank you to my patrons. You guys are, as always, absolutely amazing. If you're looking to get involved with that, there are links to it below. You get access to a private Discord server and an extra video every single week just for you guys. 52 extra videos a year is a pretty cool way to support this channel. Okay, without further ado, let's get in and paint a Thrug. And this is the mighty Thrug model. As you can see, he's an absolute beast. He's an original and very ancient troll, buried under the ground for many thousands of years. People have actually carved cave paintings and drawings into him. Unwarranted, that didn't even wake him up, didn't disturb him at all, and they make epic details on the miniature for you to paint. Like I said, I got this guy quite a number of weeks ago, and he has been sat by the wayside, unfortunately, so now I think it is time to get some paint on him. Like I said in the intro, I am not the biggest fan of the actual Games Workshop scheme. Normally I try and stick quite closely to the Games Workshop scheme for you guys doing tutorials, because I presume you want to do them fairly similar. But in this one, I'm going to go off the rails and do something completely different. So I'm going to start with Skeleton Horde, and I'm going to apply this all over the soft skin of the troll. I wonder how much of a troll's skin is actually soft. In my head, I've always had this theory of, like, you know, in Warhammer, it's been a long known thing that anything that is really old and ancient tends to be pushed more towards the albino skin tone. So I thought I would play into that a little bit. I mean, all of my Gloomspite Gits trolls currently are orange to match in with my orange squigs and all the other orange bits of the army. But obviously this guy sits outside of the Gloomspite Gits book. He is a unique and solo creature that can join any destruction army, so I didn't want to just paint him in my oranges. I decided to do something a little bit different. So like I said, I got painted all of his skin. It's Skeleton Horde to start that process off of giving him that kind of pallid skin. But I still wanted to look grimy and old. And I thought this was a great place to start. And as soon as I started applying the base coat, I realized that it was the correct color, I believe, to begin with and to work up from. And being honest, the only thing that really gave me any pause and trouble whilst painting this guy was antlers. His big, gnarly antlers are just... I don't know what it is. I've had a phobia of antlers and horns ever since my first Moma kill from Lord of the Rings. I don't think it's ever really gone away. And it's bled through into this model once again. You'll see as we go through what issues I had and how I decided to resolve them going forward. Screaming Skull was then used to lightly dry brush across the entire body of the troll. Anywhere that got Skeleton Horde applied, we used Screaming Skull to start catching those details, smoothing out the skin a little bit and making it look really nice. There's another video like I did with the big Manticore video for the Cities of Sigmar, and people are always kind of looking down their nose at the technique of dry brushing. Dry brushing, if done correctly, can give you absolutely stunning results in a very, very short amount of time. Like I'd say I got the 3 layers of skin on this troll in kind of less than 10 minutes. Which is, if you were to sit there and layer the troll, those 3 stages could have taken you literally all day. I'm sure taking your time and spending all day on it would have given you a nicer result. But is it a day's worth of time worth of better results? Does that make sense? I don't think so. Especially on a model like this, you can see that that first dry brush really did bring out quite a nice effect across the skin. I was really happy with it. Next, I'm going to go in with Wraithbone and do exactly the same thing I just did, but lighter. I just want to catch the very sharpest edges, the very lightest parts, and just make that pop a little bit more. So Wraithbone was then used, like I said, to dry brush across all of the soft skin parts. Just being really light, taking my time and being really careful. As you can see, it does give you a really nice result. It was at this point I thought, you know what, I'm making the right decision. This troll is going to look fantastic. I was feeling super pleased with myself. Well, give it a couple more steps and we'll see if I still feel the same way. From here, I grabbed Basilicanum Grey and I decided to work on that ancient rune that's mounted on top of his head. Not really 100% sure what that rune is for. It's built of the same things that the gates are made out of. And it makes him kind of despise all sorts of kind of magical structures. And he wants to go around smashing and crashing them to try and alleviate his poor headache that he has. We're going to continue on that process. So Basilicanum Grey was painted on all the rocky outcrops. Now, obviously, these things are need to look kind of ancient. So I didn't want to just go with your traditional, you know, grey flagstone looking stone. I didn't think that would really suit. So after I applied the Basilicanum Grey to the entire thing, obviously I decided to catch some of the edges. So I was going to give it a little bit of a dry brush. From there, I moved over to Dawnstone, which is just a light or dark-ish grey paint. Kind of like a shale color. And I just gave all of that a dry brush. It can be a slightly heavier dry brush. You want to add a little bit more grey back into the mix. Basilicanum Grey turned out a little bit darker than I had expected. Not bad though. And obviously these are currently two separate pieces. The troll and this are not connected in any way. There's a whole big mound of earth between both of them that'll have to tackle and help blend both of the features in. I think it's important to do the two features separate and then the blending afterwards so they all kind of match in a little bit better. A Athonian camo shade with a bit of water was then added to add that kind of greeny algae style tint to it. And this is how I've decided to go ahead and make it look a little bit more worn, a little bit more aged, is with this Athonian camo shade stage. I kind of had this idea of making him more like a bog troll, like a river troll, in that he has been, you know, buried in a bog for quite a long time. And that idea kind of evolved more and more throughout the painting process of the troll, whether in the algae covered stonework or the kind of greeny seaweed hanging off him as opposed to roots. And then I do something with his antlers at the end, which I think really did kind of set it off and really solidify that idea of what I want him to be. Okay, going back in here with another light dry brush just to once again catch the edges of that stone and just highlight a little bit. This is the last step that I'm going to take on the ancient stonework. Perhaps another time I will come back and pay more attention to the glowy stone sticking out of the top or anything like that. This wants to get this troll to a nice easy tabletop standard as quickly as possible. Okay, so we have the stone done and we have the skin done. Now it's time for a bit of rattling grime. We're going to base coat in all of the fur, and obviously he's got an epic beard, so we're going to get that done with rattling grime. In case you were noticing, for some reason I didn't show it at all on camera and decided not to talk about it until now, but the head of his big mace thing is obviously another bit of a stone obelisk or something, and I did that exactly the same steps as the rocks or the broken structure on his back. So if you want to do that, follow along exactly the same steps, get the same result. Now you got to be super careful whilst base coating in his epic beard, as it is festooned with lots of extra details, whether it be some cloth or some, I don't know, chains with skulls and stuff like that. So just make sure you try and get them all. After that, it was time for some red contrast paint, some Flesh Tears red, and we're going to base coat in all of his cloth. This is another color where you can kind of change this depending on what army you want to put him in. If you're, I don't know, putting him in an ogre army, for instance, whatever is the primary kind of cloth color for that army, you may perhaps want to paint this color onto this part so he blends in with that army a little bit better. On the box it was red, so I decided to play into that and do it red as well. Obviously, I don't know what army he's going to be fitting into just yet. I'm going to keep him bare and do him for a general destruction like my Kragnos, and I can just add him in where I want to with different forces. Wildwood was then used, and this is where we're going to begin the blending process between the troll and the structure on top of him. So wildwood is going to be used to paint in all of that kind of muck and ground and earth that he's like stood up and brought with him onto his back. As I do this, I also decided to apply AK Train's Dark Earth diorama paste to the base. I then quickly regretted this, not because there's anything wrong with the Dark Earth, it's my favorite texture paste, but I forgot that all my destruction armies are based in grays. They're all in gray bases, and I did this guy in brown. I just went in autopilot and did it. I'm gonna have to come back and fix it another time. For now, I'm trying to continue going. Gore-grunter fur was then used for parts, but mostly mistakes. I didn't enjoy it at all on the antlers or anything like that, so I kind of skipped that part for you. But I did keep the Gore-grunter fur on his the shaft of his mace or club or whatever you want to call it. So if you want to do that there, the antlers and all that I've done brown here, you can just ignore that for now. I'm going to fix them with something else later on. Plague Bear flesh was then used and applied to all of the hanging weeds and roots and stuff, all the vines that are growing up and around him. Once again, I want to give it that kind of that old wet bog feel to it, as opposed to anything really like vibrant and natural. Or you definitely don't want this thing anywhere near you. It's gonna smell horrible. It's gonna be viciously tempered. It's gonna make you think twice before ever going in a bog again. Volupus Pink was painted into all of his mouth, so make sure you get in his tongue, roof of his mouth, bottom of his mouth, all around the gums, all of those bits. Sandry Dust was then used to base coat in all of the teeth. This is the same steps that I take with most monsters that I paint. It's a very simple technique, but it works a treat. This is, of course, where I was struggling with the antlers. The brown, I don't know what I was thinking, but it definitely didn't work the way I wanted it to. Rycom Flesh Shade was bought in, and I used this as shade over all of his hair, all of the red parts, all of the kind of earth connecting the two pieces. Inside his mouth, his teeth, his gums, his tongue, all that got done as well. This helped blend all those bits and pieces together. We will be going in and layering them up just a little bit later on, so don't worry too much about that. This is just to help add a little bit more contrast, shade, and depth to those parts. I left the trees pretty much just pure Plague Bear flesh. I like how it looks on them. It's definitely doing what I wanted to. Rise of Rust was then brought into dry brush, and this is the choice of color I use for the base. So the base that he's currently on now has Rise of Rust and then a bone color dry brush on top of the dark earth, and then I just rim it black. That's how I've always done my brown base, and obviously I wanted to look like this guy has stepped up out of the same earth he's currently trotting on, so I did the exact same thing I did for the basing scheme. So Rise of Rust dry brush, and you might think that picking an orange to dry brush ground is bizarre, but I like that kind of oxidized iron look to earth. It adds like another flash of color. I think it works a treat. And once I'm doing this dry brushing, it means I'm hitting a little bit of the stones, a little bit of the steps, a little bit of the structure, which is once again helping that to blend together and make it look really nice. Screaming Skull was then brought in, and like I said, same thing I do on the base. I dry brush a bone color on top of that. I'm going to do this across this as well. I'm being a little bit more careful not to hit anything else, but obviously I want to pull this down to all of the hair details and any of the skulls and stuff around the base of the model. Now, obviously some things in the model still aren't lining up great. Still not a massive fan of the shaft of his mace, and obviously his horns need some work, and they were frustrating me to no end. They almost ruined the entire experience of getting this guy painted and made me hate it. I literally had to leave it for a day and come back with fresh eyes to see how I could salvage it or what I was going to do and how I was going to make myself feel better. And in the end I decided to grab some Black Templar and go over his entire set of antlers and horns with that. Mainly I was just trying to black them out, be something that, people won't really notice all that much. They won't take that much notice of it because it's jet black. But what it kind of did was, if you've ever seen, I don't know, like bog soaked wood, that really dark, disgusting black, and because I had all those brown colors underneath the black, it did bleed through a little bit, and it helped give me this kind of bizarre effect, which I think worked out really well, so I was quite happy. Back to Screaming Skull to highlight all of the bones and skulls. Obviously his teeth got highlighted, that his nails on his hands and feet got highlighted with this. I thought that the skulls were a little bit too bright after this, so I did in fact go back and add a little bit of color to them. I'll show you what I did in a second. But yeah, Screaming Skull, all the bits you'd expect to be Screaming Skull: teeth, nails, skulls, bones, anything like that. And obviously the bone dry brush I used on the earth, I dry brushed that heavily across the stem of the mace and stuff like that. I think that helped a lot. Then I grabbed my Fist on red and I highlighted up all the cloth just to make that once again pop, act a little bit different. Be a nice accent color for the model. Once again, this bit doesn't really blend into the idea of it being a bog monster, how he's got this like pristine red robes or rags. Maybe it's been draped over him by whatever destruction army has found him since and is trying to recruit him into their cause, and he's kind of following along with them. Who knows? But yeah, it was just a very quick red highlight on those parts. Nasdrag yellow was then brought in, and I did add maybe 2-3 parts of water to the yellow, and then I painted this back over all the bones just to give it that really aged, old, weathered look to all the bones. I think it was a really nice effect. The armored bodies on the back, I did just add some turquoise contrast paint and give it a little dry brush of silver to give it that kind of ancient patinaed look. Was I super pleased with it? No, I probably could have gone simple silver, but they wear that patinaed blue look, and it's the same technique I use for my Kragnos armor, and I kind of feel those two models have some sort of synergy, so I followed through. Carrienberg Crimson was then used for all of the like scratched in cave paintings, and I also painted it around all of his veins and bulging muscle across the body just to make it really pop and make those details really stand out. You don't want them to be kind of blending into the skin too much. They're such beautiful effects and I want people to see them. And with that, I called Throg finished. I am quite pleased with the final result, as tedious as it was to get here. Obviously, this was just kind of a learning experience. Hopefully I've gone through the painful stage, so anyone following along my footsteps won't make all the same mistakes I did, and you'll get to a position that you're really happy with a lot sooner than I did. But as it stands, I finished yet another monster from the Dawnbringer Crusade series. Just 2 more left to do and I'm up to date. So a Flesh Eater Quartz character and the cool big Sylvaneth Beetle to do in the next week or so. Okay guys, and there we have it. Throg painted up. Am I still 100% happy with him? Not really. I think he turned out fine. I'm quite happy enough to put him on a tabletop and use him. I did show him off on my Twitch stream last night. Just to get the opinions of other people. They all thought it was really nice. So maybe it's just one of those things where, you know, maybe some things just don't click with your own mind. Yeah, they all seem to like it fine. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in the comments. Do you think I did a good job? Do you think I chose the right colors? Would you change anything? I just wasn't really a big fan of the standard scheme that Games Workshop did. It just wasn't for me, so I tried something a little different. So like I said, let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already. It makes a huge difference. Make sure you like the video. Appreciate you guys sticking around at the end of the video. It does make me very happy, so thank you very much. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.